morning. Good morning. Thank you. I moved up my flight, and I'm going to dash to the airport literally right after I spend about 10 minutes here reading. And I'm going to read something quite short on the theory that less is more, which is what I try to tell my writing students at UPenn. And speaking of them, one of the reasons I'm hurtling back to cold Philadelphia is because I have to hold office hours tomorrow with the lovely little Ivy brats. So I best to get home and sleep well, or try to sleep well, although my wife and I say we haven't slept well since the Jimmy Carter administration. Thank you so much. And what Arlo just said, holding us up. I think that's the key. And I bet I won't even have time to formally say thank you and goodbye to Miles, so I'll just say to Miles how eloquent his little segue introductions have been, and tell him goodbye, and Arlo and all the rest of you for coming. And I'm supposed to read something, so I was fretting about what that would be because I wanted to make it very short. I'm going to read from the end of the prologue. One of the things that I was trying to stress in the talk that I gave yesterday, and indeed the panel that I appeared on the day before, is that for all of the undeniable, appalling, dark side of Ernest Hemingway, there was also the light. There was this bone of generosity. And sometimes it came out best when a child was involved, and not his own child necessarily, and especially an ill child. Well, who wouldn't respond to that? But he seemed to respond in a special way. And so I was thinking of reading something of a Key West passage, and I said, no, that would be like a piece of coal offering something to Newcastle. So I'm not going to read that. I'm just going to read this little moment from the end of the prologue, and indeed, it's the end of Ernest Hemingway's life, when everything is lost, but there is still something there. Loop backward 17 days from his death to June 15th, 1961 at Rochester, Minnesota. A man in the psychiatric ward of St. Mary's Hospital at Mayo Clinic is writing a letter to a 9-year-old boy. The man writes it on 2 small sheets of notepaper in his big, round, legible hand with his trademark downhill slant. An irreversibly damaged Ernest Hemingway, his inner landscape now a paranoid's nightmare, has found within himself at the end of his life the kindness and courage and momentary lucidity, not to say literary grace, to write 210 beautiful words to a kid he likes very much. Whenever I begin to feel revulsion at Hemingway's ego and boorish behavior toward other human beings, I like to take out a copy of this letter. 210 words, with so much emotion tucked below the surface of the prose, the sentences pile-driven by contained feeling and acute observation of the natural world, would have been a half-decent output for a workday, even in a master's prime. The boy, his name is Frederick G. Saviors, although everyone, including Hemingway, calls him Fritz, has a congenital heart condition. He is the son of George Saviors, Hemingway's small-town doctor in Ketchum, who was also one of Hemingway's favorite duck hunting companions. In these last weeks, Hemingway has been brought once more from Idaho for treatment to Mayo. Not long after this note to Fritz, Hemingway will fool his foolish doctors at the world-famous clinic into believing he is well enough to go home to Idaho. And almost immediately, the boss shotgun will go off in the Sunday quiet of the house that sits a couple hundred yards up the steep slope from the west bank of the Big Wood River. The patient on the locked ward at St. Mary's on June 15, 1961, has just learned that Dr. Savior's son is in a Denver hospital. In Idaho, Hemingway and Fritz's father liked talking about the Yankees and rainbow trout, but none of that will ever be the same again. St. Mary's Hospital, Rochester, Minnesota, June 15th, 1961. Dear Fritz, I was terribly sorry to hear this morning in a note from your father that you were laid up in Denver for a few days more, and speed off this note to tell you how much I hope you'll be feeling better. It's been very hot and muggy here in Rochester, but the last 2 days it has turned cool and lovely, with the nights wonderful for sleeping. The country is beautiful around here, and I've had a chance to see some wonderful country along the Mississippi where they used to drive the logs in the old lumbering days, and the trails where the pioneers came north. Saw some good bass jumping in the river. I never knew anything about the upper Mississippi before, and it is really a very beautiful country, and there are plenty of pheasants and ducks in the fall, but not as many as in Idaho, and I hope we'll both be back there shortly and can joke about our hospital experiences together. Best always to you, old-timer, from your good friend who misses you very much, Mr. Papa. P.S. Best to all the family. Am feeling fine and very cheerful about things in general, and hope to see you all soon. Papa. No one knows for sure, but these seem to be the last real sentences Ernest Hemingway set down on paper. Amid so much ruin, still the beauty. Thank you very much.